I want to make a statement before I start. Did you know that you have 1.5 months till school starts again? Right? It's amazing. I know, it's amazing. All right, I know. So for those that don't know me, my name is Matt. I've been a group leader here for the last 5 years. Where are my gentlemen, right? Yes. I've had them since 8th grade. Now they're graduated and they're old. All right? So 2 things you got to know about me. We got a few things we got to get through, all right? I have a couple fun facts I want to let you know about. Number 1, I despise the Philadelphia Eagles, and I am a diehard, thank you. That's worthy of a clap, all right? And I am a diehard New York Giants fan. No, this is not how I planned it, all right? And also, I teach your 2 favorite subjects. I'm a teacher, school teacher. I teach math and science. Where are my math and science people? Yes. How many of you are like, Matt, I can't add 2 plus 2? Yeah, see, okay, that's okay. All right. And some of you are probably wondering what in the world's going on here. You rolled up on stage in some scooter, which some of you probably want to try. All right, my ankle got messed up at basketball because for some reason I don't know how to walk and not get stepped on by people. So I got a nasty bruise here and I can't put any weight on it. So get over it. All right? All right, and last thing but to say, if I start talking like a teacher, you know how sometimes your teacher's like, all right, class, it's time to start doing this. All right, if I start doing that, just picture me not doing that and just talking to you like a real person. Is that all right? Can we do that? All right, good. All right, so how many of you, last question, how many of you like spelling? No? How many of you wear a name tag all the time because you struggle spelling your own name? Yeah, see, that's fine, okay? Well, some of you might have been in the spelling bee one day, and when I was in 6th grade, I participated in the Penn Manor Spelling Bee. All right, there's me. All right, I got my comb over, I look amazing, all right? I rocked it, okay? All right, so when I was in 6th grade, I participated in the spelling bee, and just like I was then, I'm still a nerd today. All right, I got 2nd place in the spelling bee. All right, yeah. Now, some of you are like, yes, that's an accomplishment, but some of us, I'm like, no, I wanted 1st place, okay, because I was a perfectionist, and still am in a lot of ways, all right? And I'll give you the word that I spelled wrong. I was given the word traitor to spell, traitor. I know some of you are like, I got the note card. I'm at the National Spelling Bee, all right? So they told me that it was somebody that betrays somebody. So me and my 6th grade overthinking self, I was like, all right, I got this. I was like, all right, Trader. And some of you are like, yeah. I'm like, no, it wasn't spelled right. All right, it's Traitor. And I lost the spelling bee because I couldn't spell it right. And that girl over there got to spell disguise to win the spelling bee. I was like, come on. Couldn't have been pneumonia traumatic. I know, it's one of my favorite words. It's a lung disease. You can look it up later in the dictionary, all right? So I came in 2nd place, all right? And I, in my 6th grade self, kind of felt like a failure because I couldn't spell it right, and I felt like I let my school down, let my family down, let myself down because I really wanted to get 1st place. But, a couple weeks went by. I got that nice trophy, which somehow I broke, and it, the top came off. I don't even know where it is now. It's probably somewhere in the garbage in a landfill. You're probably breathing it in right now because it's all burnt. All right? Anyway, so I felt like a failure, and 2 weeks later it went by, and I totally forgot about it. But sometimes we experience failure in life that's more permanent or more pressing. All right? And sometimes the feelings of oh man, I'm a failure, or I regret this, I stink, I'm useless, and all your worth goes into whatever you failed at. All right, and sometimes for me, my identity began to be wrapped up in those larger failures or mistakes that I would make. And I failed at a lot of things. I failed at being prideful. I've been rebellious with my parents. I've been disobedient. I've probably spent too much money in certain areas or been greedy. And so many times it's easy to associate myself with those particular sins or those things that I do wrong, and there's a lot of shame that I sit in. And maybe for you, it could be something I failed a test, and everyone else did great on the test, or I made a mistake with a friend, and now I broke trust with that friend, or maybe you feel like a failure because you have no friends, or you don't do enough activities at school. It happens. I mean, I was in that boat when I was in school. And maybe you feel like a failure because it just seems that nothing you ever do seems to be right or isn't enough. So tonight, we're talking about failure, and I kind of want to walk through what failure actually is, what it isn't, and what we can do with that failure and how we can keep moving forward. All right, so the major point that I want to drive home tonight is that failure is an event. It's not a person. Failure is an event, not a person. And it's easy to think about what we fail at and the mistakes we make, and it's easy to think that the failure is what defines us or makes us who we are, but it's clearly not true if we look at the Bible. All right, Paul says in 2 Corinthians 12:9 that I quit focusing on the handicap or my failure and begin appreciating the gift or the gifts that God has given us. And it's through Christ's strength moving in my weakness. So my identity when I have a relationship with Jesus is not in my weaknesses, it's not in my failures, but my identity can be rooted in Jesus. And I'm not my failure. You are not your failure, and I'm not a failure myself. And that kind of goes into my next point of your performance or the things that you do are never going to determine your value. Your performance never determines your value. So the things that you do in life have no bearing on the value that God sees in you. There's a guy in the Bible called David. He was a king of Israel, God's chosen people in the Old Testament, and he wrote a book of Psalms. And in Psalm 139, he said, for you, or God, so for God created my inmost being, and you knit me together, or you made me in my mother's womb. And I praise you because I am, you might have heard this before in like t-shirts or whatever, that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. So God knew, like David did a whole bunch of stuff in the Bible. He did a lot of great stuff. He did a lot of bad stuff. Same way we do a lot of bad stuff, we do a lot of good stuff. And God knows all those different things that we do. And God knows all the stuff that our failures are going to bring upon ourselves. But David knew, and I know too, that those things don't determine the value that God sees in me. And some of you are like, Matt, like I have total self-confidence. Like you do not preach this to me. Like I think I'm amazing. Like I walk down the hallways in school, and I'm just like, I got this. I'm all the self-confidence in the world. I don't even know how that's high schoolers do that anymore, but that's the vision I have when I think about it. But if I'm completely honest, like my self-confidence can go way low. So some of you might be in the same boat, and because this is really hard for me to remember sometimes. Like I'm a school teacher. I teach math and science, and like if I don't explain something correctly to a student, or a student gets frustrated with something because of something I did, or if I'm at home with my family and like I mess up with a relationship with my brother, or yeah, whatever it is, like I want to like go straight to like the shame and the feelings of like all my identity wants to go into that failure. And it's easy for me to forget what God actually like thinks about me and what's in the Bible and what like I know to be true because I have that relationship with Jesus. And really, we have to remember all the time that God is the only one that gives anybody value. And it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter what you think. It's true that God has and sees value in you because he fearfully and wonderfully made you. But we have those failures. They're there. They're in the back of our mind. And I want you to be thinking about like those things that maybe are like more pressing and like you've done in life that might have more significance and you kind of remember as a failure. But God can use failure in our life. God can use failure in our life. And he's going to use that failure. So God uses failure all over the Bible to bring about good things. Like there's bad consequences and regrets and things that happen because of the things that we do, the bad things that we do and the failures that we have. But God uses failure all over the Bible to bring about good things for those that love him. Romans 8:28, some of you might have heard this verse before. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So if we have a relationship with Jesus, God is going to use our story, no matter how much it's full of failure, for his bigger purpose, for his glory, and sometimes like that makes no sense to us. And for me personally, like sometimes, like I don't really want to associate with that failure because it's like so heavy and so big. And sometimes I feel like people are watching me from the outside. They're like, oh, Matt, like you graduated college, like you did well in school, you got a good job, like you have your own place, because I'm like 25 and I like moved out like a few years ago. And like you're not doing anything really bad, and like everything looks good on the outside. But it's crazy to think sometimes, but it's almost like my story and my life is more defined by how God has used my weaknesses and how God has used my failures to bring about something good in my life. And maybe that you guys can kind of relate. I have a very like crazy story, life-changing. Like basically my life was just like kind of like, and then like bam, like something huge happened. So I'll give you the story. So back October 2018, all right, how many of you like to drive or drive? How many of you have your license? How many of you want to drive one day? All right. Okay, how many of you know the basic laws of physics that if there's, some of you are like, yes, I got it. I got my second laws. I got it, okay? How many of you know that if there's a big car or a big truck and a little car and they collide, that the big car is going to win every time? All right? Some of you are like, Matt, were you in the big car? No. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about this, all right? So, October 2018, I'm at a wedding in New York. Okay, New York Giants, yeah, okay, great. Okay, and at a wedding for my friend, I'm coming back. It's like 9 o'clock at night, all right? This is a disclaimer, guys, by the way, for as you get older, don't drive late at night. Just never a good idea. Try to avoid it at all costs, because then bad things happen like this. And then you end up, we're getting there, okay? So I'm on my way back, driving down the interstate. I'd already stopped twice because I was like kind of tired, because I was dancing a lot at the wedding because I like to dance, even though I can't dance. But it's fun, all right? Anyone like that, right? You like dancing? Yeah, okay, good. But you can't, okay? It's fine. All right, anyway, so I'm driving back, and I'd already stopped twice on the side of the road to sleep, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I know some of you are like, I know where this is going. Okay, I'm driving, and I fall asleep. I'm going like 45, 50 miles an hour, and lo and behold, there was a big 18-wheel tractor trailer on the side of the road. All right, and it magically vanished. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what happened, okay? I started driving, and I was kind of like half asleep, and I opened my eyes, and there was a huge tractor trailer right in front of me, and I slammed right into the back of it. And it did a number to my car, very, very bad. It was like all over the place, all meshed and mumbled and crashed. And I broke my leg because the dashboard like fell right on my leg, and there's my car. So I'm not imaginary or invisible. Like I was sitting in the front seat, all right, and the dash, if you see like the glass, so like I hit the truck and I like flew around, and the windshield and the dash like fell right on my leg. So the leg snapped. I know some of you are like, ew. I don't have any gruesome pictures, don't worry. Although I really, really wanted to bring them, okay? Anyway, so my leg snaps, I break some ribs, I gotta go into the hospital, they gotta put a metal rod in my leg that's like 11 inches long that runs from I know there's me, I look great, all right? I was like probably like crazy on like some medicine that were giving me or whatever. But anyway, so I crash, I broke my leg, my femur's broken, my ribs are broken, like my hands are all covered in glass. I couldn't like walk or like do anything productive for like a month. And now it's funny thinking about it now because like I should have like, slept and like not driven when I was tired. But at the time I felt like so guilty because like I felt like I could have prevented that from happening. And I did feel like a failure for a little bit because I felt like I caused all of it to happen. And it was so easy for me in the beginning of that experience to just sit in the guilt and the shame of messing up and crashing my car and causing my life to like flip all the way upside down. So like I can't walk. My parents and my brothers have to like help me with like everything that I do. I can't go to work for 3 months. Then my job switches and like all this crazy stuff is like going on behind the scenes. And like I'm over here and like I can't walk and like it's 3 a.m. sometimes and I'm just sitting there. I'm like thinking of like all the what ifs of like, what if I hadn't done this? What if I hadn't done that? And I just felt miserable because I'm like, why would I have put myself through this? Like, why did I make these mistakes to like fail in this way? But what I didn't realize was that God was kind of cooking something up behind the scenes and kind of opening all the doors to one of the greatest things that has ever happened in my life. And I had a lot of stuff that happened in the past that I had to process that like I was kind of neglecting to like think about and process, and I was like going full speed, no pun intended. And I was stuck for the better of 3 months, like not doing anything, so it gave me a lot of time to like slow down. Like I had a lot of days where I just like sit there and maybe I'm reading or journaling. I had some time to think and process, went to counseling, I was switching jobs, and like a whole bunch of other stuff that happened that like never would have happened if this failure in my life hadn't occurred. Like if I hadn't crashed my car, like I probably wouldn't be standing up here today speaking, and I probably wouldn't be standing up here today telling you this story of like how God worked in my life. Now, some of you are like, all right, Matt, I'm going to go out, I'm going to crash my car into a tractor trailer, and great things are going to happen. No, that's not what I'm saying, all right? I am not saying that God is going to reward your stupidity, all right? But I am saying that God is going to use any failure to teach us something to draw us closer to Jesus. And a lot of us, I don't know if you're the same as me, but you can spend a lot of time in the what ifs of our failures, like what if I had gone to the left instead of the right? What if I had stayed home and slept instead of drive? What if I had pulled over and just slept the whole time? What if I had not driven at all? What if I had flown to New York or whatever? And all these like what ifs go through my mind, and I would never find any peace if I tried to kind of relive the experience and be like, man, I messed up, and shame, guilt, and I feel terrible and depressed about myself. So what I learned was important was to start changing those what ifs to what now. So changing our what ifs to what now. What now am I going to do knowing that I've experienced this failure? What am I going to do with my life to show that God is going to use my failures for the good of those who love Him, like myself? And it's still easy and comfortable to identify ourselves with our failure, and it's easy to identify ourselves in the guilt and the shame and the failure, and that's all I wanted to do with my car crash, thinking about finances and decisions and feeling like I let people down, and it's easy to sit in that. But the moment I started giving that failure to Jesus, even though life was like still very challenging and still is, like I still have a scar and like I can't bend as much as I used to because of that decision and point of failure in my life, like I can still give that daily to Jesus, and that's where the peace comes from. The peace never came when like I was first able to walk, or when I was able to play basketball again, or when I was able to jump. It never came when I accomplished something on my own. It started when I was laying in bed, I couldn't move, and I was like, God, you know better. You're going to use this failure and teach me something so great that like I could have never mapped it out. And like 3 years later now, like I could have never dreamed of the way that God has taught me so much because of breaking my leg. And no matter how small your failure is, and now like some of us aren't even like in the mode of like thinking about the things that we do wrong. And it's not because like we're necessarily like super pompous and like we think we're amazing, but sometimes those failures are like so deeply embedded inside of us that like we don't even want to think about it. Because like it's wrapped up in a lot of pain or emotion, and it could be something as stupid as like you said something wrong in your group of friends and like your friends laughed at you or something, or you gossiped about a friend. Like it might seem really small, but like if those failures aren't going to Jesus, like they're gonna come back to haunt you. And like you might think you're strong enough now to like push that to the side, but they will come back to haunt you if they don't go to Jesus. So Jesus is the only one that can do anything about the failures in our life and turn it into something positive. Failure will be with us forever. I'm going to repeat that again. Failure is going to be with us forever. And some of you are like, Matt, that makes no sense. Like some of my past things are in the past. But all of us have failure, but it's what we are going to choose to do with that failure that is going to result in God having control of it and using it for His greater purposes and bringing us peace and restoration to that failure, or it's us continuing to fail and moving further away from Jesus. And guys, I'm telling you, I got friends, I've seen them make big mistakes, I've seen them turn to Jesus and like their lives are completely changed, and I've seen some of my friends make very big mistakes and they go way away from Jesus. And like they're still like deep in that pain and that shame and guilt. So there's only one way out of it. Like Jesus is the only one that can do something positive and productive with the failures in our life. Romans 8:1 talks about how God does not reject or disapprove of us when we are in Jesus. So when we give those failures to Jesus, when when we have that relationship with Jesus and we're able to talk about those failures, we're able to like write them down, we're able to document what those things are and process like giving those to Jesus, that's when all the peace and the restoration comes in our lives. So the band is going to come back up. They're going to sing a closing song. And there's some things that I want you to kind of think through. Do I have that personal relationship with Jesus? Or is that something like you're still processing? Because none of this can really apply at all if you don't have that relationship with Jesus. Because without that hope and rest in Jesus, like you can't do anything about your failures. I'm telling you right now, you can't cover up your failures without Jesus. And the last thing I want to ask is, what failures are a part of your story? And this was something I was thinking about like before I started talking. Like, I feel like when we're younger and like we're still trying to figure out like who we are and like what we're good at and the things that we like want to do in life, like it's really hard for us to think about what we're actually like, what we make mistakes about and what we fail at. And sometimes we just want to like push it to the side. So I would encourage you, like, identify what those things are, like write them down, talk to your leader about it, talk to someone you trust, and start thinking about a way to give that to Jesus. And even the small failures or the big failures, any failure, no matter how small or big, not giving it to Jesus is not a good idea because you're not going to be able to cover it up on your own. All right? No one is excused from thinking about failure. All right? And as we listen to this last song, I want you to think about how when we are with Jesus and have relationship with him, he will never, ever, ever let us go in the midst of our failures. So give those failures to Jesus. So I want you to be thinking about those failures and how we're going to give those to Jesus as we listen to this last song. Let's pray. Father, I'm so grateful for the way that you use our failures for your greater purposes. And God, I'm so thankful that you used the failures in my life to bring about such good things, and not because of anything that I did, but because of the things that you did in my life. And I pray, God, that like if we've had those same experiences, like maybe not crashing a car, but like some other type of failure and some type of mistake that defines us, or we feel like it defines us, God, we give those failures to you. No matter how small, no matter how big, God, I pray that you would break down barriers of pride or like feelings of like, I don't want to deal with that emotion, God. I pray that we give those failures to you, God, because you're the one that gives us peace. You're the one that gives us rest and frees us from the shame and the guilt of those failures. And God, I pray that you would help us daily to do that as we try and follow you more and more in our relationships with Jesus. In Jesus' name, amen.
My heart is fragile, hold fast to the truth. There is hope still in this storm. And help my eyes to see. All my faith is shaken, teach me to believe every word you say is true. You are making all things new. You remind me that you won't let go of me. No, you won't let go of me. Through every high and low, Jesus, you're constant through it all. No, you won't let go of me. You never will. Here I find your love is a firm foundation, so I'm holding on to the promise of your truth. It's a hope that sees me through. You remind me that you won't let go of me. No, you won't let go of me. Through every high and low, Jesus, you're constant through it all. No, you won't let go of me. You never will. Oh no, you never will. You are strong in my weakness. I'm not lost in the darkness.